Hi, Greg.
Hi, Jared.
All right, here we go. All right.
Send it down to Jenna. Jenna, can you please introduce
All right. Good evening. Welcome to Kelly Automotive Park. It's the Butler BlueSox. We'll finish off a three-game set with the Champion City Kings this evening. My name is Jaron Steele. I'm alongside Greg Sutton. How you doing, Craig? Oh, I almost had a call back to last year. How's it going tonight?
Not bad. Looking for a win.
Yeah, I mean, we got one yesterday, 9-3 victory over or 6-3 victory over these Kings. Big three-run homer by Gulikowski. Good start from Connor Coward, and finished the first half of the season at 15-15. So tonight we'll turn to Nick Bucci, who's been very solid for the BlueSox this summer, and he will look to continue that. His last couple of starts have been very good. He had one start early in the season that didn't go so well, but overall on the summer he's been very good. He is pitched 34 in the third innings, 35 hits, 20 runs, 16 earned, 12 walks, 23 strikeouts, a 4.19 ERA, and a 3-1 record coming into tonight. And he's going to have to face Champion City lineup that follows. It'll be leading off number 29, Jack Schaff, followed by number 18, Seth Gray. In the 3 spot, it's number 21, Tanner Burns. Then it'll be the cleanup hitter, number 37, Zach Jones. In the 5 spot, it's the designated hitter, number 30, Philip Wells. And then it'll be the catcher, number 35, DJ Dillon. And number 14, Gage Taylor will bat 7th. Jet Sweatland will bat 8th and wear number 33. And rounding out the order will be number 25, Noah West. On the hill for the Kings, it'll be Connor Curless. We'll talk about him a little bit more in the bottom half. But here is the defense for the BlueSox. It's Christian Webb behind the plate, Patrick Ferguson at first, Brady Gulikowski at second, Ray Gonzalez at third, Haven Parks at shortstop, Tanner Murphy in left, Ben Carew in center, and Joe Gunn in right. Home plate umpire this evening is Jim Leiser, and Matthew Malik is on the bases. And here we go. First pitch from Nick Bucci. Swing and a miss from Schaff. First pitch tonight, 6:36. And it's overcast and 84 degrees. Pretty humid here tonight. The 0-1. Line drive. Base hit out into right field. And so Schaff continues his tear against the Blue Sox. He was in the cleanup spot, or 3 spot last night. Hit leadoff 2 nights ago and went 4 for 4 with a pair of homers. So he's done some damage in this series. Now Seth Gray, who had 3 hits yesterday, bat against Bucci. Pause. And a delivery. Fouled off. Now, Greg, the last time you were on, we lost by 2 handfuls. So no pressure today. We'll try to knock that down a little bit.
Absolutely. Let's hope hopefully come out with a win tonight instead of a loss, and maybe not such a big margin to fill.
Well, 0-1 here, upcoming. Now throw over first. Shaft back safely. Oh, 1 in there for a called strike. Now, Jim Lizer, our home plate umpire, I'm glad he got through the first pitch tonight. The last time he was, I don't know if it's the last time, but a few years ago when he was here, he bent down for the first pitch of the ball game, and the back of his pants split in half. So he had to go in and change his pants. He called time, walked over to the dugout. Anthony Urbanski was our manager at the time. This ball popped into center field. Carews got plenty of time. He's got it for the first out. But yeah, so Lizer, he like stood up straight after the first pitch, turned around like as quick as possible, walked over to the dugout, said something to Rabbi. Rabbi, our manager at the time, like bent over in laughter. We had nobody had any idea what was going on. He just left. And like 10 minutes later, he appeared again, and he did a bow. And he was wearing different pants, and I was like, well, okay, I got that much. And then so later on, I found out that he had split his pants. Runner goes, throw down is in the center field. Schaff is safe, but it looked like he might have had a collision with Gulikowski. Didn't even think about getting up and going to third. Now he's going to take a brief walk around. Stolen base. Puts a runner in scoring position for Burns. Looked like a little bit of a collision there, Greg. I couldn't really tell. Maybe looks like he's favoring his arm.
Maybe even possibly jamming his wrist on the base whenever he slid in.
That could be too. One 0 upstairs. Pretty muggy here tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely a humid night in Butler tonight.
2-0, a little chopper off the plate, right back to Bucci. He looked at third real quick, but good base running by Schaff. He took off right away, so there was no play there. And Burns is retired 1-3 for the second out. A lot of lefties in this lineup for the Kings against Bucci. Another one here is Zach Jones. Definitely a lefty-heavy team here. Blue Sox are as well, though.
Definitely makes a right-handed thrower like Bucci throw a little harder because the natural line of the ball comes in on a left-handed hitter more than it goes in on a right-handed hitter.
Yeah, called strike here, 1-1. Yeah, it's all. I always say lefties have the advantage, whether it be a pitcher or a hitter against the opposite. So, yeah, little roller, second. Plenty of time for Gulikowski to retire. Jones to end the inning. 4-3 he goes. And no runs come in. One left on base at third. Bottom half of the first coming up, it's scoreless, and we'll give you the Blue Sox lineup brought to you by the Butler Federal Credit Union, Armco Credit Union. Leading off will be number 10, Tanner Murphy, the left fielder, followed by number 22, Brady Gulikowski will play second base. The three-hitter will be number 8, the designated hitter tonight, Calvin Scott, followed by the cleanup man, the catcher, number 24, Christian Webb. Number 41, the first baseman, Patrick Ferguson, will bat fifth, and then it will be the number 7, third baseman, Ray Gonzalez. Number 13, the shortstop, Haven Parks, will bat seventh. The right fielder, number 23, Joe Gunn, is batting eighth, and the center fielder, Ben Crew, will bat ninth. And they'll face, from Ohio State, Connor Curless, a left-hander. First time the Blue Sox have seen him this summer. Curless has made 7 appearances, 5 starts, 30 innings, 22 hits, 11 runs, all of them earned, 8 walks, 38 strikeouts. He's 2-1 with a 3.30 earned run average. And the thing about Curless is those 11 runs, most of them came in one start. It's kind of like Bucci. But, yeah, he was really effective a couple weeks ago. He ended up striking out 12 in 7 innings against Springfield in a 10-2 victory. And then his last start, 5 2/3 against Kokomo, allowed 1 run on 3 hits, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. So he's
the left fielder, number 10.
In his last
Murphy.
13 2/3 innings, he's allowed just 1 run.
Which is pretty fantastic for a starting pitcher, if you think about it, with the amount of talent that he's faced so far this summer. It's pretty impressive doing allow run throughout many innings.
Well, if you even go back further, it's 4 runs over 19 in the 3rd innings. So that's impressive stuff. Tanner Murphy at the plate. Curless ready to go. Foul ball off of DJ Dillon, who is behind the plate tonight. Jet Swetland is at first. Noah West at second. Seth Gray at third. Tanner Burns at shortstop. Gage Taylor in left. Jack Schaff in center. And Zach Jones is in right. Kings changing up their uniform color tonight. They went red the last 2 nights. I guess the loss, they decided to change their colors. And the Blue Sox, they won yesterday, so they're sticking with their home uniforms. We've been kind of alternating around all year. Foul ball again. We had the Yankees throwbacks, and then the home whites, and then also our blue road uniforms we've worn here. But they stick with the winner, I guess, today.
Absolutely. Hopefully keep the train rolling.
Pitch high. Blue Sox come into this game at 15-15 overall, while the Kings are 20-12. Chillicothe is 18-13, or 17-13, I beg your pardon. And West Virginia is also 15-15. No, they're 15-16. Chillicothe is 18-13. That's right. Point Streak didn't update their game last night. Chillicothe won 8-7 over West Virginia. Murphy strikes out here to begin the Blue Sox night at the plate.
Now batting the second baseman, number 22, Brady Gulikowski.
Brady Gulikowski, boy, he hit a mammoth home run last night over the right center fence. That gave the Blue Sox a 3-0 lead that they never relinquished. Chases a high fastball here. Gulikowski hit 2 home runs so far in this homestand. That's his first 2 of the summer. Fastball in there for a called strike. Now the 0-2, Gulikowski down on strikes. Curless. Wheeling and dealing early on.
Absolutely. It's definitely
Now batting for the Blue Sox,
making the Blue Sox look a little lazy at the plate right now. They're not really using the bat until the 3rd strike.
And he's pumping it by him, too.
Absolutely.
Well, here's Calvin Scott. He's going to try to break up this solid inning to this point. He watches the pitch for a called strike. That was a nice breaker. Oh, 0-2 again. Right, pretty much where we left off last night early on in the game with Vance, who had a perfect game through 5. Scott watched the bouncer.
Curless in his groove, it looks like early on here, very comfortable up on the hill, being able to put a good amount of strikes to the zone.
Scott takes called strike 3 to end the inning. 3 strikeouts in the inning for Curless. We'll go to the second. It's scoreless.
There's still no score. Wells.
All right, top of the second here in Butler. Scoreless ball game. Philip Wells leads off, and he'll take a called strike from Nick Bucci. Bucci allowed a hit in the first inning, but stranded that runner at third base. 0-1, a little bit low. Wind picks up here. Right, only in our area. I looked out the flag, and it's not even barely moving. 1-1. Ooh, got him with a curveball. Way out in front.
Down low in his zone. Way to work off that first pitch. Really change it up on him, see if he can get him guessing again.
Here's the 1-2. 2-2, grounder to shortstop. And Pavin Parks has it, throw to first in time. 6-3 goes Wells to begin the second.
Now batting the catcher, number 35, DJ Dillon.
Last home game of the week for the BlueSox. DJ Dillon. Or no. Wait a minute. Gage Taylor is going to step in. Are they batting out of order? Swing and a miss. We're going to have to flip that around. Dillon in the 6 hole. And Taylor. In the 7th spot. This pitch is outside. Here's a 2-2. Fouled into the net. It's a good thing you wrote in pen. I wrote in pen. I had to scratch a bunch of stuff out.
It's always a good thing to be able to erase any mistakes that I make because I'm quite used to it.
Yeah. 2-2. Swing and a miss. High fastball sets down Taylor for the second out. First K for Bucci tonight.
Now batting for the
He has not been a guy who's gotten a ton of strikeouts this summer. Coming in with, hold on, let me get to the correct page here. 23 and 34 innings. So he's less than strikeout per inning, but he gets the job done. At the same time, he's not allowing a ton of hits either, just about at 1 an inning, 35 and 34 and a third. Ball hit the center field. Carew has a good read on it, makes the catch for the final out. We'll go to the bottom half of the second here. It's scoreless at Kelly Automotive Park. All right, so we're trying to get to the bottom of this batting out of order thing, but it's to be continued at this point. Meanwhile, Christian Webb's going to step in. He's been on fire this homestand. Hit his first homer of the summer on Monday night, and also had one hit away from the cycle. Has had triples 2 nights in a row. Takes a ball from Connor Curless. Here's the 1-0. It's a called strike. A nice fastball. Another swing and a miss. Well, that was actually the first swing and a miss. 1-2. Curless strikes Webb out. That's 4 in a row. He's set down via the K to start the game.
Not a solid trend starting off the game here for the Blue Sox.
41, the first baseman, Patrick Ferguson.
Not quite the way you want your first 4 batters to go down in order with strikeouts. 1 looking and 3 swinging.
Yeah, it's not ideal by any means, but try to rectify that here with Ferguson. He swings and misses at the first pitch. Here's the 0-1. It's a fastball low.
And Jaron, I do believe you said earlier that he's 1 home run away from tying the Blue Sox record this summer?
That is correct. The next one will tie David Marcus. And he watches a called strike.
What year was it? Do you know what year that record was set?
In 2015.
2015. So it's only 2 years old.
1-2 Ferguson. Watch the curveball dip it just off the plate. Now it's 3-2. First 3-ball count for Curless in this ball game. Here's the payoff. Swing and a miss. 5 in a row to start the game. My goodness. What a start for Connor Curless.
Now batting, number 7, the third baseman, Ray.
Absolutely in control of the game right now is Curless up on the mound.
His outfielders could probably take a nap out there at this point.
Almost looks like the left fielder's out there reading a book.
Yeah, probably get some studying in for the fall semester. Ray Gonzalez takes a called strike. Curless had a dozen in a game earlier this year. Definitely see why he's 0-2. See why he can rack up a whole bunch of strikeouts.
Definitely setting a high pace here in the first inning and a half.
0-2. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. 6 in a row to start the ball game. Wow. What a start for Connor Curless. We'll go to the third. It is scoreless. Okay, so we're back here at Kelly Automotive Park. We got a late switch in the lineup. That's what was the confusing thing. Dylan was actually a late scratch as this ball's hit out the right field. Joe Gunn, plenty of time, makes the catch to retire Jet Sweatland to begin the third. So Dylan's late scratch. Taylor moves up in the order to the 6th spot, and Giltrow is in for Dylan at catcher. He bats 7th. So that's what the confusion was. Now, Dylan was the catcher that got into the collision with Christian Webb on Monday. So maybe he was not feeling good enough to go yet. Swing and a miss by Noah West. He's down 0-2. And waste pitch down low. But so that could be why he's a late scratch here tonight.
Maybe
for DJ Dylan.
Might have been a game time decision. The manager decided that he wasn't quite 100%, so he'll give him a couple more days rest.
Brandon Giltrow is in instead. Ground ball foul by West. Still 1-2.
Two different types of pitchers here tonight. Bucci being one that puts one across the plate, lets his fielders do the work, while it looks like Curless is one to take the game into his own hands and put the balls into the zone.
Ball hit foul down the right field line. Well, Yeah, first 2 innings, he could have employed no fielders and just been just fine, just a catcher.
2-man fielding.
Yeah. Foul ball again by West. Wasting some here. And a pitch on the inside corner or thereabouts for a called strike 3. And there are 2 ways. Second K for
Now
Nick
batting for the
Bucci.
Kings, number 29, center fielder Jack Shaw.
Brings us to leadoff man Jack Schaff, who singled the lone hit in this ball game to lead off the game tonight. First pitch a little bit high. And here's the 1-0. It's a bender that bends too far out of the zone. Schaff with a 2-0 count takes a called strike. And 2-1. Outside. Good fastball from Nick. Yeah, he's going to take a bit of a break. He's kind of, he's kind of like Curless. Just let's go. Dang. Ooh, nice curveball. Got him out in front. But neither one of them are wasting much time.
No, absolutely working through their counts very quickly and not taking a lot of time once they get back to the mound to get reset and go again.
Here's the 3-2. It's a swing and a miss. Strike 3. Schaff goes down to end the inning. Pair of strikeouts for Bucci in the third. We'll go to the bottom half, and it is scoreless.
Attention to the field. We have our second contest. Leading off in the bottom of the third inning for the Bubble Blues.
We're on to the bottom of the third here. Jaron still joined tonight by Greg Sutton.
The shortstop,
Scoreless so far. Connor Curless, the story. 6 strikeouts to start the game. Pavin Parks will look to break that up here. At least get a ball in play. It's been a really, really good start from Connor Curless.
He set a quick pace for himself, it looks like, up on the hill. He's not wasting a lot of time for once the catcher throws it back to him for him to set his stance and throw again.
Yeah, when you're in the zone like that, you're just going to keep rolling. First pitch right there for a called strike. I don't believe he's been behind a guy yet. He might have been behind one.
It might have been the first pitch on a batter, and that's about the only time he's been behind.
0-1. Fouled off. And there's another twofer.
Everybody clap your hands. Come on,
Yeah, two baseballs in one. It's a nice magic trick that we can pull here. The ball's getting stuck up in the netting. 0-2. Park strikes out. 7 in a row now for Curless to start it. Safe to say he's in the zone.
The BlueSox coming out of the box just look absolutely frustrated. Pavin Parks put his bat over his head there and probably uttered a couple things that aren't radio worthy.
Yeah. Well, look at it. We got Kulikowski, Webb, Ferguson, Parks, and Gunner left-handed. Well, yeah, there's a way to try to break it up. Joe Gunn tried to bunt his way on, but he fouls it straight back. At least let make the fielders do a little bit of work here.
Absolutely. At this point in the game, after 7 strikeouts in a row, you got to do something to put a little bit of power back into the batter's head.
The 0-1 right there for a called strike. Man, oh man. Here's the 0-2. Called out on strikes. That's 8 in a row. Oh my, I don't know. I've never seen this before. Doing this since 2011. I've never seen a guy start the game out with 8 strikeouts in a row. I think the most I've ever seen is 3.
Oh my, this is unbelievable. To see the first 8 of your lineup to go down in order on strikes is unbelievable.
Oh my, we got a ball out into the right field. And underneath it is Jones for the out. That ends the strikeout streak at 8. But that'll end the inning as well. We'll go to the 4th. It is scoreless. All right, here we go. 4th inning. Seth Gray takes a ball from Nick Bucci. 8 strikeouts in a row to start the game for Connor Curless. Definitely the story to this point. Like deja vu. Although a little less strikeouts for Vance last night, but he did take a perfect game into the 5th. This is quite the performance on the mound.
At the same time, you have to also admire Bucci. We haven't talked about it yet, but he hasn't given up a run. He's only given up 1 hit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely a pitching duel to this point.
That's kind of crazy now that you say that. He's been overshadowed by the strikeouts, but he's been solid. He's only faced 1 over the minimum through 3. 3-1. Fouled off by Gray. Ricochets off the top of the net and finds its way out into the street behind us. Gray had a 3-hit day yesterday, and he's going to ground it right back to Bucci. The throw in plenty of time for the 2nd out.
Now batting number 21.
Our first out, I beg your pardon.
Tanner Burns.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's Tanner Burns, grounded out to the pitcher his first time up. Interesting because this is Bucci's first. He's started against. It feels like Mark Gross only started against Champion City this summer, and the same with. Oh man, I'm blanking on his name right now. This ball's fouled off. Bucci, on the other hand, has faced West Virginia a bunch and Kokomo. And actually, I think he saw Chillicothe too. But, I guess it was Krivojansky the first time here. Second time here it was Lapiana. This ball hit out to right field. Coming in is Gunn. He's got it for the second out. But and it's the same thing with Curless. It's the first time the BlueSox have seen him. And I think they're probably happy that they haven't seen him before tonight.
Well, at this point, they're either happy they haven't seen him, or they're a little upset that they haven't seen him because they don't know what to expect. And they went down 8 in a row and then 9 in a row. So, I mean, it's either one way or the other. I mean, you have to be a player to really feel what they are feeling now.
Well, they've gotten a look at him once. Through the order. And they should know now he's going to throw a bunch of first pitch strikes.
Absolutely.
9 for 9 in that category in the first 3 innings. Jones took a ball. He grounded out the second. Now takes a called strike. Jones from Harris-Stowe State. And he rounds to Ferguson, who takes it to the bag himself, 3 unassisted. We're rolling right along here. Bottom of the 4th coming up. It's scoreless.
Significant heroin and opioid epidemic in not only Butler County, but elsewhere across the country. I'm Rich Goldinger, the District Attorney of Butler County. This is my backyard and yours too. Together, we can work to eradicate the high-level drug dealers that supply these drugs to those using them. Heroin and opioid abuse does not discriminate. Users come from all economic backgrounds, are male and female, and may be teenagers or middle-aged adults. With your help and in conjunction with the Butler County Drug Task Force and the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General, we can target those dealers who bring this poison into our county. Please report any suspicious activity to your local law enforcement agency, the Pennsylvania State Police, or to my office. This is our ballpark. This is our county. This is our backyard. Let's all say, not in my backyard. Please enjoy tonight's BlueSox game.
Bottom of the 4th, top of the order due up, looking to change their fortunes against Connor Curless here. Tanner Murphy, one of the 8 strikeout victims through the first 3 innings. The 8 in a row, for that matter. And imagine that, strike 1. And start the inning. It's 10 in a row now that he started 0-1. Curless, that is. Here's his offering. Swing and a miss.
Curless almost has the BlueSox swinging out of their shoes on the second pitch and not the first, even though he started off 10 batters in a row with the first pitch strike.
And the 0-2 right there for called strike 3. 9 strikeouts. And Joe, our producer, came with me with a good stat, and there was 8 strikeouts and only took 25 pitches.
Oh my, that's quite the statistic. That's 1 more pitch than 3 straight strikeouts. Like, that was almost 8 straight strikeouts due to that 1 pitch.
They called strike to Gulikowski. That's for keeping track at home, 11 in a row. Swing and a miss on the curveball. Even when they're out of the zone, he's still fooling them.
That one bounced. Yeah. It almost looked like a cricket pitch. Or a bull, I guess they would call
Yeah, a
it.
bull. BlueSox have contact there, foul ball into the dugout. That's a rarity so far against Curless.
Absolutely.
There isn't even many. That's like one of, I think,
3, maybe?
No, I don't even think it's that many. I'm gonna say maybe 2 foul balls. Another one here.
3.
Yeah.
I do believe Joe Gunn was the other one to hit that foul ball.
Yes,
That bunt attempt.
on the bunt attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully these 2 foul balls from Gulakowski are a sign of the change of fortune for the BlueSox here against Curless.
Yeah, it was 1 foul because the 25 strikes.
Yeah.
To strike out 8 hitters.
Yeah.
So far, 32 strikes, 7 balls. And a line drive to center field, but it holds up for Schaff. And there's 2 away.
A good time for the BlueSox, so they're finally making a little bit of contact off of Curless. Hopefully, to pick up on what he's throwing out and eventually get that man on base that they have been alluded to so far.
Yeah. Well, here's Calvin Scott. He takes a ball. Whoa. It's breaking news in this
One
game.
of the few.
That's the first 1-0 count in this game for Curless. And here's the pitch. It's a 2-0 count after a bouncer. So now after Scott, you got to expect a strike here. And here's the 2-0. Check swing called strike. This didn't like the spot, I don't think. They'll let that one go by.
Another fun statistic. It's been 22 or 23 outs in a row.
Yes, the only guy who's
Without a
reached
hit.
base in this game is the guy who led off, Schaff, who led off the game with
Yeah.
a single.
Which is also crazy, seeing that one side has flyouts and groundouts and the other side has a lot of strikeouts.
2-2 count. Here's the pitch. Ground ball, diving stop by the shortstop. Throw to first, not going to be in time. And actually gets away. And now Scott's going to head to second. And the throw down, they got him at second. Oh boy, goodness. So he still faced the minimum, even though he gave up a single. The no-hitter and perfect game regard, but he still has faced the minimum here. Single, and then it'll be 6 Burns to Sweatland to West to end the inning.
Representing the third base side, our first.
All right, we'll go to the
competitor,
5th.
Blankets, use him to stay warm.
We're less
Third
than
base side, give it up for
we're just over 40 minutes old. We're going to the 5th
His
inning.
opponent
It's
representing
scoreless
the
here
first base side.
in
He can
Butler.
Kickstart a bite.
Top of the 5th, foul ball by Wells starts it off. So far, it's been all pitchers. Scoreless game. 1 hit apiece. And in between them, there was, 22 in a row set down?
22 or 23, yeah.
23, I think it was, yeah. Foul ball. And 1-2 count now. Or no, 0-2, I beg your pardon. It's just a bit high. Wells grounded to shortstop his first time up. 1-2 also outside. Bucci's cruising right along. 36 strikes, 17 balls through. 4 complete. It's not far off of what Connor Curless has. I think his is 33-9 through. Actually, he's pitched a whole. Yeah, he's 33-9 through 4. 3-2 count here. And here's the pitch. Ground ball to second. Gulikowski has it, and the throw is in time.
Now batting number 14, the left fielder, Gage Taylor.
Brings in Gage Taylor, who struck out swinging. And the ball popped up in the air. And that's going to make it into the stadium. You hear that young girl squeal when it fell down?
Startled her a little bit more.
Yeah.
Looks like the group of baseball players rush over to see who can find it first.
Yeah. I think, I don't think she realized it was going to come down in front. She was looking up, and then all of a sudden it was there.
Yeah, it almost looked like it spooked her a little bit, like a ghost.
Yeah.
It popped out of nowhere.
0-1 outside. This pitch. It's a swing. That's, ooh, got him down to his knee.
Big cut there from Taylor to make it a 1-2.
Yes. Let's see what he comes back with here. Oh, whoa. Inside a bit. And here's the pitch. Oh, got him to go around on a curveball. Second time in that at bat that he chased a low pitch, and he'll go down on strikes for the second time.
Number 34, the catcher, Brandon Giltro.
Quick look around the league. Called strike here to Giltro. Lafayette 2, Terre Haute 1 in the top of the 4th, and just getting underway down in Beckley. This ball roped to right field, but guns underneath it for the final out. We'll get the rest of those scores after this inning break. We'll go to the bottom of the 5th. Scoreless here at Kelly Automotive Park.
There's still no score between
Well, we're ready to play the bottom of the fifth. We'll get the rest of the scores real quick. Wasn't really much else to say. Scoreless in West Virginia between Paints and the Miners. And Kokomo and Springfield postponed until July 30th. Danville and Quincy haven't even started yet. They're an hour behind us. And we're in fast forward here. So we play the bottom of the fifth of a scoreless game.
The catcher, Christian Webb.
There's Christian Webb.
In a game that neither pitcher wants to give up.
Yeah, it's been impressive so far. Called strike here to Webb.
We're not even an hour into this game, and we're already into the bottom of the fifth inning.
This is a scorer's dream.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Pat. And now it's 0-2. And Curless, ready to go. Outside. Trying to take him a little bit further out of the zone there, see what he can get away with, the way he's controlling the game.
He's gone him a couple times a little high on strikes to swing. See if maybe the discipline will vary to the outside of the plate also.
He lays off a curveball. It's funny, yesterday, whenever I was doing a player of the game interview with Gulakowski, I watched Webb go all the way along the dugout with that jug of water and foul ball here. And then he goes all the way out around first base and comes back into the frame. I was like, I wish he would have went a little bit further out and then came in from behind, because then I could have got out of the way. If it wasn't, but it was still funny. I got out of the way for the most part. Broken bat roller to second. And West on to Sweatland for the first out.
Now batting number 41, the first baseman, Patrick Ferguson.
So you caught yourself a little bit of a victory splash
Yeah.
last night during the interview.
Yeah, if I would have backed out of the way, then Gulakowski would have known it was coming, because he was right in my eye line. So I just had to take it. But it was worth it. I mean, it was a warm night. It wasn't like it was 40 degrees out here. He got him good.
Sometimes I'm just in awe about how some of those guys get the Gatorade onto their feathered teammates.
Swing and a miss by Ferguson. Now, when you were in high school, did you ever have an opportunity to do that? When you played Montauk?
No, we didn't really do that. We won D9 our senior year, which was the first time we ever done that. So it was more of a throw your hats up and celebrate like a graduation more than a Gatorade shower.
Did you dogpile?
I think we huddled around. I don't think we dogpiled.
No.
More of a powwow than a dogfight.
Well, 0-2 on Ferguson here. And the pitch misses low. Yeah, that was Derek Bowman was the
Derek
pitcher?
Bowman, yeah. He's an ace. He's at Slippery Rock now. I think he's in a summer league down in Florida somewhere for this Slippery Rock University.
Towering foul ball. And 1-2 is high. I know Monta's always had good spring sports. The softball team made it to the state championship last year. And it's just a little school, too, up there in just north of Butler.
A lot of people play they dual sport. They play basketball, maybe even 3 or 4 sports.
2-2 called. Strike 3. Give Connor Curless 10 on the night.
Now batting number 7, the third baseman.
Hayden Rhoda started.
Gonzalez.
And the Prospect League record for strikeouts in a game is 16. And it's shared by 2 guys, Chris Marlowe from West Virginia back in 2010 and Taylor Robson from Quincy in 2011. Foul tip by Ray Gonzalez.
I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of firewood down underneath down behind the BlueSox dugout after tonight.
Yeah, they might have to
roast some s'mores and hot dogs.
Yeah.
After the first 8 batters retired in order with strikeouts.
We might have to retire these bats after this game.
Yeah, we might have to completely redo the rack of bats they have down there in the dugout.
1-1. It's a swing and a miss from Gonzalez. Gilroy, late start, the scratch from Dylan. He comes in, he's catching an excellent ball game. He caught one last night too with Vance through 5, and then the BlueSox broke him in the 6th. Swing and a miss from Gonzalez. Gilroy will have to complete the strikeout by throwing to Sweatland. He'll do that. 11 strikeouts for Connor Curless through 5.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 5 out of 5.
And we'll go to the 6th. Still scoreless here at Kelly Automotive Park.
Including one.
First baseman, Jet Sweatland.
Jet Sweatland leads off the 6th. Scoreless ball game, just one hit apiece so far. We've been talking a lot about Connor Curless and how well he's done tonight, but Bucci has retired 15 in a row since giving up a leadoff single. Bucci has 61 pitches for Curless. Bucci at 63.
2 more. This is a textbook pitcher's duel.
Yeah, it
at
really
Kelly
is.
Automotive.
2-0 count and a pitch in there for a called strike. Sweatland had a pair of home runs against Butler out in Champion City earlier this year. He came into that game hitting 118 and belted a couple out. Swings and misses here. Ball fouled into the net. Here it comes. First throw. Oh, takes a detour.
As Mike Lang would say, he rang that one off the post.
Yeah.
Looks like Sweatland needed a little bit more pine tar for his bat there.
Well, he's ready to go. And here's the 2-2 delivery from Bucci. He's outside. And 3-2. Ground ball through the hole out into left field. A base hit, and that ends Bucci's streak of 15 in a row. And a leadoff single. First time, or for just the second time tonight that the leadoff man has reached base in this game. In fact, we haven't had a guy go, well, actually, Schaff made it to third. So one guy in scoring position all game.
It's a fantastic feat for 2 pitchers to allow 1 man into scoring position. 5 into the game.
Bunt attempt by West, pulls it back, takes a ball. In a game like this, I don't mind the sacrifice. I normally am against it, but when nobody's getting anything going, you gotta manufacture something. He's just letting them know. Bucci thought about going to second, but will take the shore out at first. Sacrifice hit 1-3 for the first out, and that puts Sweatland into scoring position for the top of the order in Jack Schaff.
Not very often does a pitcher take a look at the double play on a bunt situation. But that ball was hit pretty hard for a bunt back to Bucci for him to have the thought in his mind to try a double play.
Called strike here to, well, we got a pinch hitter here. That's number 23. Let's see, 23 is Jimmy McLaughlin hitting for Schaff here. Interesting. I hope Schaff's all right. Remember earlier he was favoring his arm at second base. And pitch outside, ball 2. Get some numbers on McLaughlin this summer. He's comes into this game hitting 167 in 17 games, 48 at bats, 1 double, 1 triple, 1 homer, and 9 runs batted in. After a foul into the net, count is even. And here's a pitch from Bucci. It's low. So McLaughlin most likely will be taking over in center field for Schaff. That ball pops way up there. Ferguson giving it a look. And he makes the catch right by the stands in the very narrow foul territory beside first base for the second out.
Now batting for the Kings, number 18, the third baseman, Seth Gray.
Here's Seth Gray. He's 0 for 2. Flew out to center field and grounded out back to the pitcher. This is a rarity in the Prospect League this summer. We've had a lot of games that go 9-8, 10-9. In this game, 3 hits total in a scoreless game with 2 outs in the top of the 6th inning. (1-0) in there for a called strike. Ground ball to shortstop. Paven Park's throw is in time to get Gray to end the inning. And BlueSox starter Bucci puts up another 0. He strands man at second base and will go to the bottom half of the 6th inning with it still scoreless here.
29th, for our game against the West Virginia Miners, the Woodman's Life chapter and the Butler BlueSox will be recognizing the Butler County first responders for everything they do to keep our community safe. We appreciate every dedicated and hardworking individual that serves our community. Our firefighters, police officers, and paramedics work in a stressful and dangerous environment on a daily basis. So, we'd like to give them the opportunity to have a relaxing day at the ballpark where they can enjoy a BlueSox game, capped off by some dazzling fireworks. Go Butler BlueSox!
All right, so defensively for the Kings here, as we come back here in the bottom of the 6th, Taylor's moved to center. It looks like McLaughlin has settled in and left, and Schaff has exited the ball game. Hopefully he's not too banged up. He's a fine player. And here's Paven Parks. Fouls the first pitch off from Connor Curless. Oh, one, another foul ball.
Curless not surrendering the pace. He just
No, not
shows
at all.
at this point in the game, he shows no sign of fatigue. The only hiccup in his game so far has been that single that was hit by Scott.
Looking for his 12th strikeout here. And he gets it. That's now 3 in a row that he set down via the strikeout. And he's tied his season high. He's 4 off of tying the Prospect League record.
With 4 innings left.
Yeah. The way he's going to be pitching deep into this ball game. Here's Joe Gunn. And he takes a called strike. Not only is Curless, effective, but he is so consistent. He's rarely thrown a pitch where the catcher, Giltrother, another one, has had problems with. I don't know if he might have thrown one bouncer in this game so far. That's it. I mean, everything has been precision.
Cut and dry,
That's right.
as our one intern Lucas would say.
Yes, it is very cut and dry. Foul ball, 0-2 still. Oh, 2 swing and a miss. That's now 13 Ks for Curless. Joe Gunn was, I think he has your theory there. He was ready to break that bat in half.
Almost having to withhold himself from chucking the bat into the netting behind the plate. A lot of frustration coming from the plate after a strikeout for the Blue Sox here.
Ben Carew takes a called strike. It's gotten to the point where you should just be swinging at the first pitch.
Absolutely, and the Blue Sox haven't looked like they've been able to get that bat off their shoulder.
This ball hit well to left field, but it'll hang up for McLaughlin, who makes the catch to end the inning. Well, we're going to the 7th, and it's 7:45. Scoreless ball game here, as here at Kelly Automotive Park.
It's time for each and every one of us to face a very troubling fact. There exists a significant heroin and opioid epidemic in not only Butler County, but elsewhere across the country. I'm Rich Goldinger, the District Attorney of Butler County. This is my backyard and yours too. Together, we can work to eradicate the high-level drug dealers that supply these drugs to those using them. Heroin and opioid abuse does not discriminate. Users come from all economic backgrounds, are male and female, and may be teenagers or middle-aged adults. With your help and in conjunction with the Butler County Drug Task Force and the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General, we can target those dealers who bring this poison into our county. Please report any suspicious activity to your local law enforcement agency, the Pennsylvania State Police, or to my office. This is our ballpark. This is our county. This is our backyard. Let's all say, not in my backyard. Please enjoy tonight's Blue Sox game.
Tanner Burns leads off here in the top of the 7th. And I feel bad because we've been talking a lot about Connor Curless, and rightly so. He's been magnificent. But so has Nick Bucci. And he maybe hasn't gotten the flashy numbers of strikeouts, but he's been just as effective. He's only allowed 2 hits so far. He's behind 2-0 to Burns here. But he's done a great job out there. He's let's see, he's at 82 pitches, and we're playing the 7th. Chopper, and that's a foul ball.
And you can't really ask anything out of Bucci other than to keep this game scoreless, which he's done, only allowing 2 hits.
The 2-1. Hit to center field, drifting over towards right center. Joe Gunn will call off Ben Carew and make the catch. 1 down here in the 7th.
And this game is just absolutely flying.
Yeah.
Now batting number
And
37.
one more nugget on Curless. So far tonight, through 6 innings, he has only started 2 batters with a ball.
An amazing performance here tonight by Curless.
Yeah. And they're 50% on that because Calvin Scott got a hit on the one, but then he got thrown out at second. But whenever he starts with 1-0. Well, strike here to Jones. And here's the 0-1. Another called strike. Yeah, I was saying earlier, a lot of these games in the Prospect League this year have been high scoring. I think the night you were on, Kokomo put up, 11?
Yes.
And Butler's put up double digits several times. Strikeout here of Jones. And so it's kind of, this is kind of an albatross in the season, but I like this type of game when you get to watch 2 good pitchers just doing at the top of their games, just working effectively, efficiently. It's fun to watch,
especially at the quick pace that Bucci and Curless have both set so far this game.
Line drive to right field, base hit, 3rd one of the night, 2-out single for Wells. But there's I like them all. I love watching home runs, but with this being such a rare thing this year, it's just kind of neat to see here tonight. Ground ball to short, and Parks will go to Gulikowski to retire Gray and end the inning, and it is stretch time at Colorado Park. We're going to the bottom half of the 7th inning with a scoreless ball game. Well, Tanner Murphy is ready to go, and he takes a ball. That's only the 3rd time tonight. It's been a 1-0 count for Curless. He's allowed just 1 hit through the first 6 innings, Murphy cuts and misses here, and he has faced the minimum to this point.
And an amazing thing is that whenever he does fall back 1-0, he comes back and evens it up 1-1.
Yeah, he misses here. $13 Ks, no walks. Now he's in danger here, 3-1.
Hopefully your word was the curse that we needed for Connor Curless.
(3-1), ground ball to third, and it's off of Seth Gray. He'll turn and fire, but that will allow Murphy to reach. We'll wait to see the rolling. That was hit right at him. That probably should be an error on Seth Gray. It is. So Murphy aboard here in the 7th on an E5.
And that's, in my mind, that's the hiccup that the Blue Sox have been waiting for to finally burst this ball game open on Curless.
Well, it definitely is a good start. Here's Gulikowski, who cuts the first pitch and fouls it off. Brady flew out to center field last time. I felt like he was a little bit on to Curless last time. He fouled a couple off straight back that were good cuts, and then hit one to center field. So maybe he can break this ball game open here. Pitch inside, considering that it is a 0-0 ball game through the first 6.5. Throw over to first. Murphy dives back. Wasn't really a move from Curless there.
No. I think he just wanted to kind of keep him honest over there at first base more than anything.
You can see Tanner taking off here. He's got a decent lead out there. Curless checking him. And now throws over again. And Murphy's back.
This is really the first time we've been able to see Curless and how he reacts with the runner on base.
Murphy is 10 for 10 on stolen bases this summer. Here's the 1-1. Gulikowski with a home run swing, but he swings through it. Step off and a throw over. Again, Murphy dives back. Solid drop in from Lucas, who's running music tonight.
And that's one of the tricky things about left-hander, though, is he can pick that foot up and come right at you over there at first base with him not even looking like he's coming at you instead of going to the plate.
Yeah, they do a lot better of holding runners on. Here's the pitch, and Gulikowski swings at a high fastball and goes down. 14 Ks now for Connor Curless, 2 off the Prospect League record.
The designated hitter, Calvin Scott.
And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but if he gets Scott to hit to shortstop or second, he could still face the minimum throughout 7.
Well, we're going to see what happens here.
Let's hope and pray that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Throw over. He could also pick Murphy off. He's back again. He's an aggressive base runner. I really like Tanner. He's a very good ball player. He's fun to watch out there. But that's aggressive. With the lefty on the mound, the ball bounced away from Curless. That's the first thing he's done wrong tonight. Not catch the ball and it comes back to him. But with a lefty on the mound, it's good to be aggressive. But they can pick you off pretty quick.
Without you even realizing they're coming towards you.
Yeah. At the same time, he could spike one in the ground, and Murphy could come around third base, called strike.
A major league pitcher did that this year. Chris Sale, I want to say, maybe.
What's that?
Spiked the ball into the ground on a pickoff move over to first. It wasn't Sale. Lester.
John Lester.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was,
It was early in the season, but it was definitely
Lester rarely ever throws over to first. Pitch low.
and now we might get the insight into why he never throws over to first.
But we saw that last night, or maybe it was 2 nights ago. Pitcher threw the ball over to first and spiked it into the ground. Not as bad as Lester did, but spiked it in front of the first baseman, and runner moved to third. Murphy is going to move up on a wild pitch. They got just behind Gilt Row. 3-1 count on Calvin Scott.
And it almost looks like the base runner is adding a little bit of pressure to Curless.
Yeah. Well, it's the first time he's had to see one tonight.
This might be Curless's kryptonite.
Well, we'll
If you have a
see.
base runner, it looks like he might be able to move him around and hopefully play a little bit of small ball once he gets into scoring position.
Well, Murphy's at second. Scott at the plate. 3-1 the count. And here's the pitch. It's high, ball 4, and that's the first walk issued tonight by Curless. And 2 men on here with just 1 out.
And I think, actually, that's the first walk of the game.
Yeah, it is. But either team.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number 24, the catcher,
Yeah, the
Christian
Kings have 3
Webb.
singles, and the Blue Sox have had 3 base runners, a single, an error, and a walk. Now Christian Webb at the plate. Curless checks second, then comes home. Here and now a ball lined into the gap by Webb. That's going to get down. Here comes Murphy in to score. Scott is going to come around too. A stand-up 2-run double by Webb. It's 2-0.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was a 2-1 double by number 24, Christian Webb.
And Curless being perfect through 6 and 6, I believe. To give up 2 runs on a double is something I didn't believe was going to happen here tonight.
Well, they finally were able to get to him.
Number 41,
Webb finds a gap. He has hit the balls so well in this 3-game set.
And it looks like this might even be the end for Curless.
Well, yeah, Rick White's going to go out and have a talk with him.
There's a righty warming up in the pen for the Kings.
Yes, there is. Well, I can't read the number, unfortunately. If he turns around, I'll let you know who it is.
Butler Health System's award-winning cardiology program has consistently been
Probably number 11. Joe Crisp, possibly. Loosening in the bullpen. Curless is going to stay in there.
For more information, visit the BHScardiovascular.org. This Mound Break is brought to you by BHS, Butler Health Systems Cardiovascular Program.
An inning of first here for Curless. His first walk, his first base runner, and his first run let up.
A discussion between Cody Harold and Rick White. Here's Patrick Ferguson. He takes a pitch low. Curless has not been the same this inning.
No. And it's something that I wasn't thinking we were going to see tonight. Curless out of character.
1-0. Ooh, my. Ferguson was looking for the propane tanks out there behind center field, but he comes up empty. One night we were here, middle of a game, all of a sudden a bunch of gas come out of one of those things. I was like, oh that's not good. But it turned out it was just steam. So that's
A little bit of a scare.
yeah. But I was like, wow, that doesn't look right.
That's out of the norm.
Yeah.
Get your heart racing a little bit.
We've had some weird things happen here. We one night, 5 minutes before the game, one of the transformers exploded out by the scoreboard, right in the middle of pregame. We had to wait over an hour for them to switch power grids. Swing and a miss here from Ferguson. Boy, he wanted that one.
I think that's probably one of the biggest cuts I've ever seen a player take at a ball.
It was healthy. Two up. Boom. That looked high, but that's a called strike. And that'll be the third,
Number 7, the
14th
Gonzalez.
strikeout for Curless. Looked like Ferguson had some words for Jim Lizer. I was with him on that one. That one looked a little bit high.
Jim Lizer wasn't a big fan of that one.
No, he wasn't.
But the page will turn.
Yep. It'll turn to Ray Gonzalez. 15 strikeouts. So he's one away from tying the record. Wouldn't be something if he lost.
Absolutely. And after this inning he's had, it's going to be a question if he's going to stay in now. There's 2 right-handers loosening up in the pen for the Kings. So it's a question of if he will stay in for the 8th inning or they'll bring in a late relief.
Well, the 1-0 is balk. It's a balk. It's a ball as well. And moving over to third is Webb.
One of the most peculiar innings from a pitcher that started off the game with 8 strikeouts.
Yeah. You got to give credit to Nick Bucci for just putting up zeros right with them and then allowing eventually the offense to get a couple runs.
And it almost just looks like one crack occurred, and it just started spreading for Curless here in the bottom of the 7th inning.
I said 2-0. That pitch doesn't count because of the box. It's still a 1-0 count on Ray Gonzalez. And pitch fouled into the net. Good thing it's there, Greg.
Just the top.
Yeah. That's right where that ball hit. That's right where we sit. And if it wasn't there, then
it would have been a close one.
Greg might have had to go see the dentist because he might have hit his teeth.
I still need to go see the dentist.
Well, it would have been an emergency.
Might have been going to the hospital beforehand.
1-1 inside. Gonzalez slides out of the way. And here it's 2-1. Fouled off again.
And this next pitch could be the record tying.
Yeah.
For the Prospect League.
All right, here we go. 2-2, 2 outs, runner on third. And the pitch. Right there for called strike 3. And that is a record-tying strikeout. 16 Ks for Connor Curless, but the good news is the BlueSox scored 2 runs on 1 hit, 1 error, and leave 1 man on base. We'll go to the 8th. It's 2-0 Butler. All right, here we go. Top of the 8th, Nick Bucci on the hill. He's going to face the bottom of the order, Giltrow, Swetland, and West. Blue Sox ahead 2-0, scoring both runs in the last inning. Pitch hit to center field. Carew has to go back about 10 paces, and he'll make the catch for the out. That's a good way to start it here.
After an inning in the bottom of the 7th that you saw just about everything you could see from the game of baseball, containing a balk and error, a walk, 2 runs,
A double. And a double by Christian Webb. Joel just told me that he is 5 for 10 in this homestand, so that's
pretty impressive.
very impressive. And 4 extra base hits.
The only thing we
Go with it.
missed, I think, that's out of the ordinary is a home run.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come this half.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
but I
right?
mean last half. That's the only thing that matters. That was an out of the ordinary inning in the game of baseball.
Swedlin can definitely hit one out. But he's going to watch 2 bouncers to get ahead. Yeah. Champion City does not have anybody warming in the bullpen, so you might be right. Connor Curless might be coming back out here. We were talking off air whether he might be done or not. Hard hit grounder to shortstop. Parks throw in plenty of time to get him. 2 away.
Now batting number 25, the second
And
baseman,
Bucci,
Nolan.
being the one that's been overshadowed by the amount of strikeouts that Curless has had, is still putting up a goose egg for the Butler BlueSox.
Yeah, he's been awesome. This is a great performance by Nick Bucci. And he gets a pop-up here on the infield. Ferguson is under it. He's got it, and that will end the inning. Wow, Nick Bucci, 8 innings, has allowed just 3 hits.
And ladies and gentlemen,
And we'll go to the bottom half of the 8th inning with Champion City trailing the Butler BlueSox 2-0.
Thursday because that means it's Thirsty Thursday. Come out to Kelly Automotive Park each Thursday to support your favorite hometown team, the Butler BlueSox, and enjoy our special concession prices, including $1 draft beers and 50-cent pops. Tickets start at just $7 and can be purchased online at butlerbluesox.net and or by phone at 724-256-9994. Let's go Blue Sox. Everyone's favorite part of the week is Thursday because that means it's Thirsty Thursday.
New pitcher for the Champion City Kings here. That is Joe Crisp, a right-hander, will take over on the hill for Connor Curless. Boy, what a tough, hard game for him tonight to be on the hook. He goes 7 innings, 2 runs, one of them being earned on 2 hits, 1 walk, and a Prospect League record-tying 16 strikeouts. And so he ties Chris Marlowe from West Virginia in 2010 and Taylor Robson in 2011 for a single-game strikeout record of 16. And the pitch to Pavin Parks is outside. 2-0 from Crisp. We'll get some numbers on him here in a moment as soon as I can get my laptop to cooperate. Crisp. Yeah. He's making his debut, it looks like. He's behind 3-0 here. We'll check that real quick. Listed at 5'9", 160 pounds, a junior from Kentucky State and a native of Shelbyville, Kentucky. Yep, this is Joe Chris' debut, and Pavin Parks fouls one off here. I don't know. I think Connor Curless has a future in baseball. I will say that.
By the looks of tonight, yeah, I would say so also.
The 3-2 is low for ball 4, and Pavin Parks leads off the inning with a free pass. Good at bat.
Now batting number 23, right fielder.
Chillicothe has put up a touchdown on West Virginia, 7-0 in the 3rd inning down in Beckley. It is Lafayette 8, Terre Haute 4 in the top of the 5th out at Lobb Stadium. And Quincy and Danville have not gotten underway yet, and Springfield and Kokomo have been postponed until July 30th. Pitch is a called strike to Joe Gunn. It's amazing. We're in the 8th inning, and some of these guys are just getting their 3rd at-bat of the game. Pitch low from Crisp. He's a, let's see what he's listed at. Listed at 5'9". I think that's generous. He's a, what's it say? He's not Connor Curless out there. He's a lot smaller. But he could be just as effective. Pitchers are, the runner goes, and they're going to say that there is going to be, I think there's going to be interference.
Insurance Services could have eliminated that risk he took in stealing that base. Spectrum Insurances with offices.
I saw Jim Leiser hold his arm up like he was calling the runner out at second, but I guess he was just calling that a strike. I thought maybe there might have been a little bit of interference there with Joe Gunn, but it's a stolen base for Pavin Parks. And looking to add some insurance here in the bottom of the 8th. I'll tell you what, it's a good thing we didn't have this game last night because, although the game ended early last night, we've been sitting here for a while
We've been in
waiting for
trouble
fireworks.
for fireworks, absolutely.
1-2, little flare out into left field. It will fall, and that's some good outfield work out there from McLaughlin. Made it look like he was going to catch it and forced Parks to freeze. If he goes full bore from the start, he probably scores on that, but you got to be careful. You got to be cautious in that situation with nobody out. So he's on 3rd. Runners on the corners with nobody out.
But definitely a different look than we saw in the first 5 or 6 innings. Now that there's got runners on the corners with no outs.
Foul ball by Carew. I gotta give McLaughlin credit. He stood there with his glove up like, I'm gonna catch this ball. You better freeze. And Parks had to respect it.
Absolutely. And as a base runner, you always have to respect a pop fly out to left field when you're on second base.
One runner goes, and Gunn is going to be thrown out at second. Nice throw from Giltrow. Gunn caught stealing 2-6. Good throw from Gilroy. Good tag out there by Burns as well. Called strike here to Carew, 1 and 2.
A risky throw from Giltrow also with a runner on 3rd. If he sails that ball, Pavin Parks would have scored with ease.
Pitch Carew with a line drive base hit out into left field. That will get that run home. And Carew with an RBI single about an inch off the ground until it reached the outfield. We'll take it. Good work from Ben in the 9-hole, and it's now 3-0.
Now batting number 10.
And now the confidence meter on the BlueSox dugout just has to be going up and up and up and up after these 3 runs they put up in the past 2 innings.
Yeah, well, now it's Tanner Murphy who got things started last inning by reaching on an error, then came around to score the first run on that 2-run double by Christian Webb. Here's the 1-0, popped up. It's coming towards us, but it's not going to quite make it to us. It's going to land on top of the stadium.
Thank goodness for the roof.
Yeah. One of these days, I'm going to catch a foul ball.
I caught one earlier this season.
You did.
I did.
That's right. I complimented you on it.
I did. I was very proud of myself.
Yeah, I would be too.
Thought maybe I was going to wake up to a call from the BlueSox.
Yeah. 1-1. Murphy chops it off the plate over to Cody Harold. Seth Gray cuts it off, though. A couple years ago, I had a foul ball hit. This is for you, Greg, not for the folks at home because they can't see this. But there's the wall right behind us, and it hit right there, come down and hit my laptop, and there's a big crack at the top of my laptop because of it.
Good reminder to always keep your head up.
Yeah, well, that was scary. That was on a dead line. We got Spencer coming by, giving us nice "Let's go BlueSox." Oh man, that kid's full energy.
Absolutely. Relentless energy.
2-2. Murphy pops it up. That's coming towards us too, but it will thud off the top of the stadium.
The roof saves another one.
It's a good thing they weren't coming by with those tables. At that moment, one of them might have got scared and dropped it.
Or thrown it.
Yeah. They use it as a shield, I guess.
Set it up real quick.
Carew leads from first. Crisp, ready to go. Here's the pitch. It's there for called strike 3. Nice pitch from Crisp. Retires Murphy for the second out of the inning.
Now batting number 22. The second.
It's just one of them days for Tanner. Strikes out 3 times, but he did reach on an error and score a run. So there's that.
Yeah.
To hang your hat on. And here's Brady Gulikowski. He has a pair of strikeouts and a flyout so far. I'd like to see him extend that homer streak to 3 games in a row. Runner goes. And Carew is safe. That was a close play. Burns applied to tag, but the foot of Carew just gets in there in time for a stolen base and puts a runner in scoring position with 2 away. The parade of interns goes back the other way now.
The cloud of green.
Yes. Well, Carew at second. Gulikowski at the plate. The 0-1 count. Here's the pitch. It's high for Carew. That is his 5th stolen base of the summer. 1-1. Fouled out of play. Flirts with the lights.
Gulikowski has been a foul ball machine tonight.
Yeah, he has.
Against Curless and now Crisp.
Yeah, he's close to just getting the pitch that he wants. He's fighting a lot off here tonight.
And they just won't give it to him.
No. After watching him hit bombs the last 2 nights, I don't blame them. Now, ball gets away, and moving to third is Carew on the wild pitch. Gulikowski just barely held up his swing. They're going to actually appeal, and Matt Malik, our bases umpire, says no swing. That was close. But with him standing in the middle of the infield, that's not an easy play to judge.
Absolutely.
And 2-2 to number 22 with 2 outs. And pitch is just a bit low. Full count. In the pitch. Broken bat. And the ball's hit right to West, who catches it on a line to end the inning. Tough break there. That bat does not go down a hero. But Blue Sox do add an insurance run on 2 hits and no errors. Leave a man on third. We'll go to the top of the 9th with Butler ahead 3-0.
On July 29th, for our game against the West Virginia Miners, the Woodman's Life chapter and the Butler Blue Sox will be recognizing the Butler County first responders for everything they do to keep our community safe. We appreciate every dedicated and hardworking individual that serves our community. Our firefighters, police officers, and paramedics work in a stressful and dangerous environment on a daily basis. So, we'd like to give them the opportunity to have a relaxing day at the ballpark where they can enjoy a Blue Sox game, capped off by some dazzling fireworks. Go Butler Blue Sox!
The winning number is
All right, ready to go here. Top of the 9th, Nick Bucci looking to close this thing out. He's had a virtuoso performance thus far, allowing just 3 hits through the first 8 innings. And the Blue Sox have a 3-0 lead. And he stared down his counterpart, Connor Curless, who was outstanding tonight, tying a Prospect League record, 16 strikeouts. But Blue Sox got 2 off him in the 7th inning, and then added an insurance run in the last half. Here's the pitch from Bucci to McLaughlin. Checks his swing on a ball. And now foul ball straight back. And foul ball between the legs. That's tough to do.
Yeah, most of the time you see him get him in the ankle or the shin and whenever that happens, but definitely a feat of luck when it doesn't.
A little roller to first. Ferguson's got it. He'll flip to Bucci, who steps on the bag for the first out.
now batting number 18, the third baseman, Seth Gray.
Brings up Seth Gray, who's 0 for 3 today. That's a rarity for him here against the Blue Sox this summer. He's been a very, very tough guy to get out.
But a very warm welcomed blessing for a pitcher in the bottom of the ninth, or top of the ninth, excuse me.
Pitch inside to Gray. (1-0). It is low. Ball hit high in the air out the left field. Murphy's under it, and he's got it. 2 away here in the ninth. How about Nick Bucci?
Absolutely. We didn't talk a lot about him a lot in the early starts of this game because of Curless's amazing start to the game with 8 strikeouts. But now that he's gone 8 2/3 deep, he's definitely the top performer in my mind so far this game.
Yeah, he's it's been a quieter than those strikeout totals rack up. They're impressive, but he is just turning in another classic Nick Bucci performance that we've seen this summer here. The 0-1 is hit out the left and fairly well. Back to the wall is Murphy, and he's got it for the final out. A complete game, 3-hit shutout by Nick Bucci here tonight. And the Blue Sox are winners 3-0.
In just under 2 hours.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's a good thing that they don't, they don't get paid, but if they did, it'd be bad if they got paid by the hour tonight. But I gotta head down to the field. Greg, why don't you take it through it, and I'll come back and help you wrap it up.
All right. Well, a 9-inning shutout performance by Nick Bucci. Absolutely fantastic. Curless goes 7 innings and will tie the Prospect League record with 16 strikeouts. Unfortunately, he'll take the loss home tonight, and the Blue Sox will win 3-0 over the Champion City Kings. And just an amazing performance by both starting pitchers. Unfortunately, Curless goes home with a loss after such a hot start with 8 strikeouts in a row. The crowd slowly leaving. The handshakes are being done. And tonight is autograph night for the fans. So from everybody here at Pullman Park, I'm Greg Sutton. Alongside me tonight was Jaron Steele. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.